Welcome to It's the Economy. It's a special show, this one. Maharashtra, India's largest industrialized state, saw two sets of governments in the last term of the state assembly, first led by Uddhav Thackeray Sena and then by Eknath Shinde's Sena. Did the state lose out on investments? Now, with the state having a government with a stable majority, as also the same party as the centre, will investments increase? Joining me to discuss the state of the state Capex in India in general and in Maharashtra in particular are Mahesh Vyas, Managing Director and CEO at the CMIE, Centre for Monitoring the Indian Economy, Rajashree Murkute, the Senior Director at CareEdge Ratings, and Anil Yadav, Director Investor Relations and former Group CFO at IRB Infrastructure. Gentlemen and Rajashree, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let me start with you, Mahesh. You're the high priest of any data on capital expansion. What was the performance of Maharashtra? Did it do better than other states? Did it do better than its own previous record in the last 5 years when we thought we had a kind of mishmash government?
Well, Maharashtra has always been one of the better performers on the Capex front. It has a lot of investments in manufacturing and it competes with states like Tamil Nadu. But Maharashtra has been on top and it hasn't lost that position much, really. There's competition from Gujarat and from Tamil Nadu. But Maharashtra has done well. It continues to do well. It is the top state in terms of attracting investments, in spite of the political upheavals, ups and downs. And by the same measure, one can say as investments in the country are not doing too good, Maharashtra takes a hit because of that as well.
Okay. Well, we were just playing the data from CMIE on projects completed and projects, I think new proposals and projects completed. New proposals, Maharashtra continues to go up with 21% of the share, but in projects completed, it has fallen year on year. FY23 was 21.69, according to CMIE data, fallen about 10 percentage points to 13.69. So was completion hit, you think, or are these ups and downs common, Mahesh?
Yeah, that's not a big deal. You will see a lot of investments coming through in 24-25, in the first half of 24-25. So I think Maharashtra did very well in 21-22. It did come down a bit. One cannot expect the graph to keep on rising continuously in these projects because many of them are very clunky projects. You know, they are big projects. So one shouldn't read too much into the fall in 23-24. I see a little pickup in 24-25.
Okay, good. Let me get Mr. Anil Yadav, the man who's actually on the ground on this issue. Mr. Yadav, was there any delays in completion because of, it took time. The government was preoccupied with other things or perhaps did not have such a stable majority. Did you have any slowdown in decision making in the previous 2-3 years?
I think if you look at the last 3 to 5 years, largely the Capex on the road sector was funded by the government, either through EPC or HAM project. And we are not bidding for the EPC and HAM. Accordingly, it will not be appropriate to comment on that side. We have few projects in Maharashtra, that is Mumbai, Pune, and plus 3 more BOT projects. But in terms of the traffic growth, it was, if you talk about last 6 or 8 months, it was muted because typically we have seen during the general election, the activity is on the lower side. And I think with a stable government and now clear mandate in Maharashtra, we should see a growth in the traffic in the coming quarters. Okay.
You know, you have a lot of projects in Maharashtra. Many of them are funded by NHAI, but some are funded by the state government. For instance, the Atal Bridge was funded, I believe, by the state government. It was not an NHAI project. Is there any difference in terms of speed of permissions when you handle a central government project and a state government project in Maharashtra?
The Atal project, Atal Setu project, which you are talking about, again, it was an EPC project, and we were not party.
Okay.
We predominantly bid for the BOT and the TOT projects.
Okay. Thanks for that. Rajashree, I know you all look at a large amount of data, but largely national Capex like the CMIE. What has been Maharashtra's record in the past 5 years, you think, compared to itself and compared to other states?
Thanks, Latha, for having me on the show. So, Capex trends are something that have been pretty central and a very important indicator for economic development. And we at Care Ratings also do track this data pretty closely. So, in recent, just early this month, when we published, a report on the Capex, what has come to our notice is, like in the previous years, Maharashtra continues to remain at the front end in terms of project announcements, basically in terms of investments announced in the state, as well as in terms of completions. More pronounced, if I have to pick up for first half this year, the first half of FY25, the number of projects which have been announced in state of Maharashtra that have increased to close to about 35% of the overall investment projects announced, amongst all the 20 major states. Vis-a-vis at FY24, this number would have been closer to about 20%. So to a large extent, it does indicate that, the investment rigor and the focus continues to remain strong in the state. Secondly, when we look at the other important metric, as you also mentioned some time back, in terms of the project completions. So there as well, we do notice that in H1 FY25, Maharashtra continues to remain leading the pack in terms of project completions, close to about 19% of the overall 20 major states that we have been tracking. This number was close to about 14% for FY24. So all in all, what we observe for Maharashtra is not just the manufacturing sector. Infra has been a fair bit of central focus for the state, and the recent big marquee projects which have been announced, that should bolster some additional activity in the state for some more time.
Okay. So in short, do I understand that Maharashtra has done well, and done well even in the last 6 months when supposedly it was a lame duck government? So that's a very big takeaway. Mr. Yadav, therefore, would you say that state governments don't play a very active role? I know you're not interested in EPC, but more generally in your experience, the decision making happens because of the bureaucracy, and it's not really stalled too much by state governments. Would that be a fair assumption?
Yes, definitely. Typically the large portion of the infra project comes from the center, and that activity typically continues. And this time the central election and the gap between the central election and Maharashtra election was only 6 months. So there was a lower activity as far as central awarding agency is concerned. But in terms of the Maharashtra government, we have seen the award activity even pre-election as well, though those were the EPC project, but there were award from the Maharashtra government.
Okay. No, I mean, there is very clear data even from the government to show that the first half of the current year, there has been a year-on-year fall in Capex, both at the center and at the state level. Mahesh, what is your assessment of the Capex cycle itself? If you take everyone, central PSUs, private sector, as well as government-owned like NHAI kind of projects, where is the Capex cycle? Has it picked up? How does it compare, say, to the previous 10 years, say from 2010 to 2019, pre-COVID?
Okay, we ain't doing very well. So we began the year, this fiscal year, with the elections, and therefore the new investment proposals slowed down understandably, and so did completions. Since a lot of the Capex movement in the recent past has been government-driven, one could understand that elections and restrictions around that period leads to a slowdown or a substantial slowdown in the announcements and in the completions. But what is disappointing is that September quarter also turned out to be bad. It is quite low in terms of new investment proposals and completions both. The quarter was better than the June quarter, but still it was quite low compared to all other quarters since the pandemic. So the pandemic was, of course, a meltdown, and this second quarter was not very enthusiastic, was not very enthusing. And we pushed the envelope a little and see what's happening in October. and in October it turns out to be even worse. So the new investment proposals, for example, is less than $1 trillion, when the average is much higher, like 6 trillion, so 2 trillion in a month approximately, and we are seeing like it was 0.53, so maybe revised up to 0.7 later on. But new investment proposals are very low, and the completions also are largely delayed. So one could blame the central government elections first, then one can blame the Jammu and Kashmir and Haryana elections, then one can blame the Maharashtra and Jharkhand elections, but you can't keep blaming this. And investment should not be so captivated by the political cycles.
Okay. Yeah, so it's something more. It's probably animal spirits. It is possibly the capacity of the economy to absorb more investments. Maybe we have to worry about those things. A quick last word from you at CareEdge. Rajashree, would you agree that the Capex cycle is not as robust as we have seen in previous cycles?
Sure, Latha. In fact, that's where we also concur pretty closely. In terms of the Capex cycle, both central as well as the state Capex, both have kind of faltered from the previous achievements which we have seen in the past. Adding to, the first quarter, which was largely a meltdown or a restriction, which we noticed from the general elections. Q2 saw some green shoots in the central Capex, but on an overall basis, for H1, we've observed that there is a contraction in the central as well as state Capex by about 15 to 10.5% on a YOY basis. So hopefully this now should kind of rest, but yes, we are still short in terms of our achievement.
I take your point. The CareEdge data very clearly says that both center and state Capex is down about around 30%, 28% from year-ago levels. Sorry, I think 10.5% for the centre from year-ago levels. And likewise, central public sector units are also contracted their Capex by about 10.8%. Thank you very much, Mahesh, Rajashree and Mr. Yadav. The key takeaways are that the state government, neither the previous innings nor the expectations of a strong majority have got much to do with Capex. Maharashtra continued to do well even in the previous system and is expected to continue to do well. But overall Indian Capex has a spot of bother for our experts. We'll wrap up on Bazaar on that note. Stay tuned. Chartbusters coming up.